So this weekend we had the accumulation of a year of Tengu Plant format gameplay. All the qualifier tournaments that I have been covering throughout this entire year has led up to this moment where we finally had our World Championships. If you haven't caught the stream for that, I streamed the entire event on my channel. You can check it out by just going to my profile on my channel and hitting the live section, and you can see the entire World Championship streamed. But I wanted to talk about and cover these deck lists because I'm going to be busy the next few days, so I want to make sure I get this taken care of real quick so you guys can make sure you get to see the content you guys want to see. And for this, we mostly cover top four because of the fact that it's a smaller, like, Tengu tournament. It's like weird to say it's smaller, but because like the only players that were allowed to be in here had qualified prior. So we had 27 total players qualify, and then of those 27, 22 of them were able to make it on this day and compete. So we were short 5 of our qualified players, but still honestly not bad. Majority of the people who qualified did show up to compete, and we were competing for $500 thanks to Advance for giving us that prize pool. And it's pretty exciting. You know, this is the first year we've done the Tengu World Championship. We've learned a lot from doing it this first year. Shout out to Photo Shooty and the other Tengu Plant Discord mods in Tengu Plant Town. There's a link to that Discord in the description below, guys. If you want to participate in the next Worlds, make sure you guys do it. Join my Discord, join the Tengu Plant Discord. Those are the places where we're going to be hosting qualifiers and stuff moving into next year for Worlds as well. So make sure you guys check that out. But shout out to those guys, everyone who helped out with the events and stuff like that. This is a lot of work, and it's a ton of time invested by all of us, and even personal money coming out of people's wallets just to try to help support the growth of Tengu Plant format. So it's a really great start. We had a fantastic turnout of players for most of our tournaments. I think it was around like 40 or 50 people that came in at a single given time, which I thought was really cool. So yeah, pretty awesome to see. Really looking forward to see where this goes in the future and how much bigger we can make that prize pool and stuff like that. So shout outs to everybody who supported the event and stuff like that as well. But yeah, we'll talk about the top cut for it. We'll talk about everything we got going on here. So this was the meta breakdown for the event. Again, it's like smaller, but remember, these are all players that have qualified. So this is like best of the best, right? These are all players that had to basically make top 4 or better to make it into this tournament. So we had 4 agent players, 3 TG, 2 Tengu Plant, 2 Heroes, 2 Karkuri, 2 Cat Sith, and then 7 other. 1 Fabled, 1 Falcon Punch, 1 Gravekeeper, 1 Gladiator Beast, 1 Jurak, 1 Piper Chaos, and 1 Zombie mid-range. So yeah, pretty cool, very diverse set of decks. I'm honestly shocked. I really thought more people were gonna like hard go for Plants and Agents, which Agents was still the most represented deck by like 1. But I really expected it to be a lot heavier in that direction. But we actually had a very diverse pool of decks, so I think that's really cool to see. And since, again, it's a smaller tournament, so typically since we're covering top 4, I decided to cover top 6, especially because I had to showcase the deck that made it into top 6, which I thought was really cool. So we're going to start off, and we have Lamb, who is playing Fabled. As you guys know, I mean, we've already seen this list before. I don't even think Lamb changed anything about the build. I just think it's really cool that Lamb had basically the gumption to take this to Worlds and honestly came very close to topping Worlds, like narrowly close to topping Worlds with Fabled. It was super cool to see. I would have loved to see Fabled win Worlds, but just the fact that like we kind of see a repeat of success with this deck, or like pseudo success, it technically didn't top, but like, you know, like really close to topping. It kind of shows that maybe Fabled is something that could be taken a bit more seriously. Oh, actually, there was a change. The cruise was reduced from 2 to 1. I'm not sure what that was in favor of. Maybe the extra Call the Haunted. I don't remember if there were 2 before. But either way, really cool. It's exciting to see that maybe Fabled is like a bit more threatening of a deck than people initially realized and expected. Although I will say we did catch on stream when Lamb actually lost their match to like not make it into top 4. It was because they lost to a Maxi play in game 3. So, you know, that is the consequence of the deck. You know, if you're playing it, you might get Maxi'd. It might hurt a little bit, and that's kind of how it be sometimes. But for the most part, really cool for Lamb. Like, shout out to Lamb for going all out and playing this deck. I was really hoping that Lamb would, and Lamb did. So, yeah, really sick to see. But this next player actually was probably the closest out of anyone to winning Worlds. Basically, had Brahim Poke, who was our undefeated player in Swiss. Had they won their last round, Guari would have made it into top 4. Guari would have had enough points to make it in. Unfortunately for Guari, that did not happen, which means Guari ended up placing 5th place with 10 points because Guari had a draw. But Guari won my last invitational, the last invitational to get in with Gravekeeper, and Guari brought back a list that's slightly different than what they had before. The biggest difference here is there was no like rivalry of warlords in the side, and they actually sided Field Barrier. But then seeing this Book of Moon in the side was like kind of insane to me that like Guari doesn't actually main Book of Moon in Gravekeepers, which maybe if Guari's watching this, you can touch on why you don't do Book of Moon. But that's like really crazy to me, right? Like that's insane because like I feel like this is like one of the most swingy cards in Gravekeepers. You flip a spy, they Veiler, you chain Book of Moon, and it's a blowout. It's really rough. So it also is really good for dealing with like mind control plays. If they like mind control a set spy and flip it, then you Book of Moon it so they can't do anything with it. It comes back and you get the flip again. So I'm surprised this isn't mained. I'm not sure why it wasn't, but regardless, we're seeing kind of just standard Gravekeeper, very similar to what the list was before. As far as I'm aware, I really don't think anything even changed in the main deck. It was basically the side deck that changed for Guari, going from my Invitational to Worlds. But either way, really cool. Sick to see Guari bring it back, and it's really unfortunate for Guari that it like so close. Like basically Guari had 10 points and Lamb had 9, right? And then there were a couple other people. There was like one other person with 9 points and then 7 points. That's why I'm showing top 6 or top 7. Or not, yeah, top 6. Just because like I think it's interesting to see these decks. And Guari like was very close to making it in. So credit where credit's due. And then we gotta show off Fable. It's sick, right? But yeah, shout out to Guari. Congratulations for making it into, you know, I guess top 6 of Worlds. And we'll move on to our actual top 4. The first person we have is Shinu Slaw, busting out the Shinu Slaw special of TG Stun. And the reason Shinu Slaw didn't win the whole event is because Shinu Slaw is no longer siding Breaker the Magical Warrior. So, guys, you know, Shinu Slaw, what are you doing? You know, it's your fault. Breaker the Magical Warrior carried you all those other times. But in all seriousness, TG was actually a deck that went surprisingly well at Worlds, like went on kind of a rampage. TG was very dominant. We watched a lot of stream matches of different decks playing against TG, and TG always just seemed to win. So this was like TG's event, you know, which is kind of surprising because I really wasn't expecting a ton of TG. I think I could expect Shinu Slaw to bust it out, but I wasn't expecting it or as many TG as we had. And yeah, this is basically just the bread and butter TG stun. This is the standard that you kind of typically see. Not really much crazy going on. We got Liberty at last in the side. Apparently I need to pick this card up because a bunch of TG players are playing this card, you know. But yeah, that is pretty much it for Shinu Slaw's top 4 list. Congratulations to him for topping the first ever Worlds. Especially with, you know, the pet deck, the TG stun. Really sick to see. Moving on to third place, we have Brahim Poke, who is playing Hero Stun. This is the Brahim Poke special. Usually, if you see Brahim Poke playing in like a qualifier or something, he's playing Hero Stun. This was a pretty unique list in the sense that we're taking a little, like a page out of the Edison book and running some Jar of Greeds in the main deck. Me and Dave were talking on stream that Legacy of Yada is strictly better because there are a few spirit monsters that can hit the field, so there's no reason to run this over Legacy because you could get a draw 2 off of it. I thought it was going to be Jar Turtle, but no, this is just a nice punish to the blind spaces and everything like that. We're on Triple Maxi in main. I'm never going to agree with that, but that also is a Brahim Poke special. I think Brahim Poke always is on Triple Maxi. And I don't think that was very helpful against the top 4, because basically the entire top 4 was back row decks, you guys. Like, back row decks kind of went on a storm at Worlds this year, which is kind of crazy. So, but yeah, got the kind of standard monster lineup with the spicy tech gores in here. This is the only thing that's not standard. And I guess we don't really have any D-Prisons, which is kind of interesting. None in main or side, which honestly probably hurt a bit given how many TG players there were, because D-Prison is a really good card for the TG matchup. So it's kind of interesting to see that we didn't have it. But the Gores came in clutch. There was a lot of people not reading Gores when playing against this deck, and the Gores gets dropped, and you just get hard blown out by it. So this was probably the tech of the day where it was like, okay, reasonably speaking, this is good. And then the other thing that was like brilliant about this list that I really loved was because you're on Jar of Greed. This basically let him set back row, even up, like you can set multiple Jar of Greed, right? Set both of them. They swing in direct, and you activate both on attack declaration or just one on attack declaration, and you can just drop Gores right there. It's kind of like the Nordic strategy or whatever. And I think that's really, really cool. I think that's actually insane. So yeah, just pretty interesting hero list for the most part. Again, going for the Maxi over Valor. I'm not a fan, and I don't think it worked out for the top 4 just because of how many back row decks there were. But other than that, you know, I do like this list. I do like this Jar of Greed tech in here, and I like that we use Gores to kind of bait people, because most people just don't expect Gores when playing against Hero Stun. But maybe people will now, especially when Jar of Greed's floating around. So, yeah. But congratulations to Brahim Poke, taking 3rd to 4th, and we will move on to our finalist. So this was Alex Lennon, who was playing TG Stun as well. So again, 2 TG Stuns made it into top 4, which I think was really crazy. I do like this list quite a bit because we're on the Wangu in the side. I think this card is so good in TG Stun when you got Horn of the Phantom Beast and a Wangu. Ooh, you are cooking with gas. But honestly, this list is on 2 Striker and then 2 Thunder King. So we reduce Striker count down, and then 1 Barbaros. So it's a little different. It's basically like we're cutting a Barbaros and a Striker to make room for the 2 Thunder King, which is like pretty similar. It's like kind of similar to Shinu Slaw's list, but without those cards in. But other than that, yeah, I mean, it's just TG Stun, guys. We got a lot of back row. We got Skill Drain. I think Skill Drain is really, really good. Like, I think Skill Drain decks are like a pretty decent meta call, especially if you think there's going to be a lot of Agents. And Agents was technically the most represented deck in this tournament. Alex Lennon also, I believe, won, I think, the last Tengu Mania with TG. But I think Alex Lennon was on the, like, TG with, like, Tour Guide and stuff like that. So this is a bit of a different style of build, if I'm remembering correctly. I could be wrong, but I think that's right. But yeah, pretty cool to see TG again, kind of on the upsurge again. Like I said, Tengu is a fluid meta, guys. Sometimes you see decks spike and then you see them drop, and this was the TG day. But it wasn't TG's day to win, and that's where we are going to move on to our first ever world champion, which was Himne, who was playing back the special of Falcon Punch. And honestly, I felt like this was like a very satisfying world champion. You know, everyone has respect for Himne as a player. Himne is absurdly talented as a player. And Himne was like the one to win the first like big Tengu Mania one that like I actually covered on my channel and stuff like that, with exactly Falcon Punch. And so he kind of like pseudo pioneered the deck in the sense that he was like the first one to ever top with it, and he actually won with it, and then he cycles it back in for Worlds to win with it again for Worlds, which I think is really cool. And something I've talked to Himne, because I actually like playing this deck. I play this deck a bit myself. I asked him about it because I really considered this deck for Vegas, but I didn't know how to beat Agents, and he kind of talked about this theory of like Quackimiro Drago to help deal with the Agent matchup, and I didn't really believe in it. I was like, I don't think that's that good. But we saw on stream, this card just hard walled off Agents. He sized into triple of these and the Debris Dragon. You got the Dark Spear. So you have a few dragons and Dark Arm Dragon. So you have enough to like reveal and sit on Drago. And if you put Drago out before they can get like Shine Ball Gotchi, you kind of can just win the game. And so it's really cool. I think this deck is like brilliant. I think it is one of the more fun decks to play in the format. I love this deck. And it's basically pretty cookie cutter, like standard, like from what he did before. The only difference is Fiendish Chain is at 1 instead of at 2 in exchange for Trap Dushu from like his normal primary build. But this deck is really sick, and it's super sick to see it actually win Worlds. And yeah, so I mean, there's not really too much else to say about it. I think this was like the most creative part, and it's definitely something I'm going to try moving forward as well, because I think that Quackimiro Drago is like really, really strong against Agents. I saw the power of it. He ain't lying. This card puts in some work. But yeah, congrats to Himne. That was so sick. It's so well-deserved win for him. Really happy to see that he gets to take that away. But yeah, what does this kind of mean? You know, we can kind of look at this. And for me, you know, I hate to go there. You know, I don't hate to go there. I love to go there. You know what I'm saying? But you know, we had a lot of agents, we had a lot of plants, and we didn't really see any make it through. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of people. I always make the case. A lot of people tell me I'm kooky and crazy for saying that. You know, I think this meta is very diverse. It's not just plants and agents. There's a lot of very viable decks, and I don't see any plants and agents at Worlds, you know, and this is best of the best playing against the best in the best, you know what I'm saying, for money. So, you know, not saying they're bad, just saying that, you know, it is cool to see. It's cool to see some new decks pop up. It's cool to see some people put respect on the archetypes they love. You know, Himne putting some stuff down for Falcon Punch, seeing like, you know, Shinu put in some work with TG and Alex Lennon. And then, of course, the Brahim Poke Hero. You know, Heroes looked really, really good. Heroes had an insane match against Himne's Falcon Punch. But either way, there are some things to look at going into Worlds next year. Like I said, this was our first time running this event, and there's a lot that went well. There's a lot of things that we could improve on. So we are going to be discussing some ways to approach it going into next year, because we definitely want to continue doing this event, and I hope that this event will, you know, inspire more people to want to come play and give it a try and compete in the qualifiers. But we also recognize that maybe just the qualifiers is a difficult way for some of you guys. Like maybe a multi-day event qualifier or something could be in the works. We haven't ironed everything out entirely, but if you guys have any suggestions or anything based on like your experience in competing in these events throughout this entire year, please put them in the comments, because we are going to be discussing how we can improve this moving forward. We want this to be the like pristine, like the best of the best in terms of like a Tengu championship tournament. We want to make sure you guys have a good experience, and I mean, free entry with cash prize is really good. We want to try to get more money involved, and I think we found some ways to do that for next year, which is pretty cool. But either way, this is a phenomenal start, and I'm super proud of what was able to be done and all the work that everyone put in. I think it's incredible. So that is going to wrap it up for this video, you guys. We are just going to give a quick shout out to my patrons. So shout out to Wabi Adam, Eric Gagnon, Slap God, My Dude, Photo Shooty, Brian Ford, and Sven Olbrahen. Thank you guys so much for the support. But other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you guys think about these decks in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and make sure you guys have a great time dueling.